Welcome everyone. As you know, my name is Heidi Riccio. I am the superintendent of Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School. And this is one of our few series of Zoom calls to families and students regarding our reopening plan. You will know that last week we did present to school committee, or actually was it the week before? And we presented the 3 model reopening plan, hybrid, remote, and full in, which was expected by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Commissioner Riley. We requested a hybrid model with a 50% model, looking at bringing 50% of our students back onto campus due to the nature of the school system that we have and being a vocational school. So that was approved by the school committee, and it was then subsequently sent to the Department of Education. This, however, please note that may change based on a variety of options. One, if the governor or the commissioner state that all schools in the Commonwealth need to close. We are also waiting for additional guidance from the state on the metrics. The metrics are expected to change this evening. We do have a couple of our communities that are in the red zone. Those communities in the red zone are cities. And at this time, we will continue with the hybrid model, and we are seeking guidance from the state for regional school districts. So we were expected to get that today. We do not have that yet. So once we get that guidance from the state as it relates to regional school districts, we will provide you with an update on that. We do have the largest number of geographic locations. So we have over 55 locations of where our students come from across 3 counties. So as you can imagine, it is quite a feat to kind of keep track of these, but we will be seeking the guidance of the state as we receive additional information. We will certainly pass that on to you. And so if our Director of Technology could kindly slide. I will let the next slide, please. Okay, we were very fortunate to receive 3 $12,000 re-entry grants from the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And these grants were written to be able to allow students an opportunity to gain some additional academic experiences due to the closure of school. We wrote 3 grants. One was a summer academy grant. The second was a weekend grant and a weekend and vacation grant. And then the third was an after school or before school grant. It was for a small amount of money, so we did have to limit the number of students, but we received $12,000 and $36,000 collectively to support that. It was I don't want to call it an experiment, but much like anything in education is technically an experiment, right? Once you start learning and experiencing things. But with that, we had about 26 students on campus this week. So it was a hybrid model. So we kind of tested our hybrid model, and some of the days were remote, some of the days were live on campus. And as you can see, it was an integrated project. So we have our incoming freshman students, 26 of them, from a lot of different communities, actually. They really kind of span, and I believe 4 teachers that came in, and they taught the math and science of shipping. So they all had to kind of work together as a team to develop a ship. And if you see to the right where the picnic table is, they actually towed it in a canoe. So this is one of the ponds on our campus. And we had Paul Crofts behind this student. I think this student right here in the gray is from Middleton. He played baseball with Miss Donnelly's son, I believe. But here is the pond. We have one of 3 ponds on our campus. And so the teacher, Mr. Crofts from Natural Resources, is in a canoe. Everyone had to work as a team to create a structure. That structure then got put into the water and they started adding weight to it. And so they were looking at, you know, how much weight can that structure actually hold before it sinks. It was a great opportunity for our freshman students to get onto campus, but also for us to be able to test kids back on campus. And I'm not going to lie, we had a tour from Bristol Plymouth vocational school, because they're actually rebuilding a brand new school. And myself and Joe St. Pierre, our facilities director, told them they had to wait so that we could go down to the pond to see these kids in action. And I think unless they're lying to me, they all seem to have a great time, because we asked every single one of them. And to see the smiles, and you might say, how did you see a smile? Because they had masks on. Well, you could see it in their eyes that they were really happy. And the teachers, I think, were happy to be on campus. So I'm going to say it was a success, because I believe it was a success, but it also kind of helped test the protocols that we have put into place. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to let Shannon discuss the upcoming dates that you may need to be interested in.
Good evening, everyone. Shannon Donnelly, principal here at Essex Tech. These are just a couple of highlights of some important dates that are coming up. Our most recent update to the school calendar is posted on our website, and it was sent out in our family message last week. This time of year, we are making regular adjustments to the calendar, and there will likely be another updated version this Friday as well. But these dates are just some highlights over the next couple of weeks. So Monday the 31st, our teachers will return to school. And from the 31st until September 15th, they will have 10 full days of professional development and planning time to prepare for our students' arrival. Friday, September 4th is a furlough day for staff, so the building is closed. And Monday, September 7th is also closed for Labor Day. New student orientation is Tuesday, September 15th. So we'll be welcoming our 9th grade students as well as our new 10th and 11th grade students. That runs from 7:45 to about 11:45. And then Wednesday, September 16th is our first official day of school for students. So on that day, which is a day 1, grade 9 students will be here on campus in their academic classes. Grade 12 students will be here on campus for CTE. And grade 11 and 10 will be at home, with grade 11 doing remote academics and grade 10 doing remote CTE. Please note, this is a little bit of a change. We decided to make our first day of school a full day rather than a half day, which is commonly our practice. But with the students having missed so many, hours of in-seat time in the spring, as well as starting 10 days late, we want to just get them back in the building and back remote learning as soon as possible. So we're going to go a full day on the 16th. So the new update to the calendar on Friday will reflect that change.
Good evening, everyone. This is Tom O'Toole. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And so what you're looking at is the hybrid learning model that was approved by the Essex North Shore School Committee on August 6th, and then sent to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education on August 12th. So basically the idea was we had discussions. We ultimately had 3 hybrid models, and we had a debate, and we were looking at it and having discussions and stuff like that. But we went with this particular hybrid learning model, which is half of the students learning in person and half of the students will be remote. We learned from the March to June emergency full remote last year that we believe students benefited best from structure and accountability. And so every other day allows students and teachers with that very structure and accountability to maximize learning. If you're away from a teacher for a day, you know you're going to see that teacher the next day, the weekend notwithstanding. So basically, that's what we've learned, and we believe that that's the best way to help students stay focused and to learn. Social emotional aspects of student learning are also a part of this model. You get a chance to see trusted adults and peers, again, every other day in the hybrid learning model. And we believe that this is the best one to sort of give students a taste of being here and then not, and the following day back again. So there's always this level of connection and accountability, the two important things. And ultimately, being a career technical and agricultural school, and this idea of doing hands-on sort of authentic learning in place, we believe that the hybrid learning model is consistent with our school mission as well. So I'm going to show you in the next two slides the schedule itself that Ms. Donnelly just mentioned. And here's what it looks like. So we start on a Wednesday, as it turns out, which is September 16th. And day 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, just like we've always done, is the Blue Cycle Day. What's different, though, is that 9 will be on campus for academics on Wednesday, and then remote the following day. And then if you look, grade 11, who are remote, who on that Wednesday will be on campus that Thursday. And this will go back and forth with, you know, students here and then students remote, and then students here and then students remote for 9 and 11. Grade 10 and 12, the opposite happens. Grade 12 will be on campus on the first day of school on Wednesday for CTE, and then remote the following day, and then back on campus again on Friday, and then remote on Monday, and then back on campus on Tuesday. We make up for the 3-2 split on the cycle schedule by making sure we'll flip this schedule, I think, every quarter, every semester, to make sure that it's sort of, you know, if you get in 3 one quarter, you'll get 3 2 the next. If you go to the next slide, you can see the second cycle, second 5-day cycle that we have, which is day 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And again, now grade 9 enters, you know, freshman exploratory at the beginning of the year, would be on campus in CTE for day 6, and then remote the following day, and then on campus again. And they would syncopate with grade 11. And then grade 10 and 12 will come onto campus on different days for academics as well. So there's never a day where if you're out on a day, you're going to see the teacher and your classmates the following day. And we felt that this was more consistent and helpful to students than to do sort of 2 straight days and then have 3 days off, or not off, but 3 days remote, and then they come back into cycle again the following Monday and Tuesday. So we believe this hybrid model works best for who we are as a school, and works best for student learners and instruction.
So Tom, before you go, I know that was a lot of information, and we have received, you know, a couple questions from parents just in emails. So please note that we are going to work on a very succinct schedule that's grade level to make it a little bit easier to kind of understand and read. So I know we're kind of talking through the slides, but in our weekly emails, we'll be putting that down by grade level to make it a little bit easier as you plan your week for your child. Okay.
Okay, so we've also had some questions about the bell schedule and what that will look like. So we are going to keep our traditional bell schedule that we have used in the past. So if you are a 10th, 11th, or 12th grade family, this will look familiar to you. If you're a 9th grader, give it a few weeks and then it will be familiar to you. So this will remain as is. This schedule is located on the Families tab of our website if you want to find a copy or print a copy. We will work into each 70-minute block a mask break for the class and time for cleaning and sanitizing just prior to the end of the class before the bell rings and the next class comes in. So those will be worked into the class time. We still have some details to work out regarding mask breaks in terms of what time those will happen during the block and where students will be taking those mask breaks. We hope to have students outside for mask breaks, but if the weather is not cooperative, then we need to have a backup plan. So we are working on that. On remote days, this schedule will also remain intact. So if a student has an A block English class when they're in school, they will also have an A block English class when they are learning remotely. The block will be the same length. So we realize 70 minutes in front of a screen with a class is a long time. So what we've encouraged our teachers to do is start the lesson at the beginning of the block, go over the objective, explain to students what's going to happen. And then during that 70-minute block, the students could break off either into breakout rooms in small groups or alone to do individual work. And then towards the end of the block, they'll come back together again online, and the teacher can wrap up the lesson and finalize everything before the end of the block. All right, next slide, please.
So as you can see, we have a couple pictures. This is upper, if you are already familiar with our building, this is what we call upper E. And so each of our academies or buildings are blocked off by A, B, C, D, E, and so on if it's an outer building. So this is an academic wing. And as you can see on the floor, there are the 6 feet distancing signage. We will be adding some signage at eye level. That was one of the recommendations that somebody had mentioned. So we'll be adding that same signage. These are one-way passages. So we removed all of the excess furniture. As you know, our building opened in 2014, and we had some couches and tables in these common areas, and we did remove that furniture. And in place, we have these social distancing signs as well as the stanchions. So the stanchions just help guide students and staff down the hallway. Next slide. Okay, this is a traditional classroom setting. So it could be an English class or a math class. And the 6 feet distancing is from seat to seat. So we were able to take a classroom, and some classrooms are actually different sizes, but working with our facilities department, we were able to split those classes so that they are 6 feet seat to seat. And then from the teacher's desk area is from, it's 9 to 10, I'm sorry, not from the desk area, from the whiteboard is 9 to 10 feet from the whiteboard to the first row of the student. And so there is definitely some social distancing that is able to be done. In addition is that we will be wearing masks during class time, as well as obviously unless it's a mask break. So the expectation is that all students and staff wear masks, or I'm going to say face coverings, I apologize, face coverings. To the left is a traditional science lab, and as you know, and to the right, we actually removed the lab benches out in order to accommodate the 6 feet distancing, and we replaced them with student desks, which are still actually a fairly large size desk. They're not a tablet desk. Most of our classrooms do not have tablet desks, you know, the traditional tablet desks with the attached seat. We do have a few classrooms of that, but these are wider desks and workspaces. So this is what a traditional science lab would look like. Next slide. Each classroom is equipped with what we call a sanitation station. So our facilities director, as you walk into every classroom, you will see this. There is a single serve paper towel dispenser. There is a disinfectant. I know it's blue and it looks like Windex, but it is not Windex. It is a disinfectant. To the right of the disinfectant is a touch-free sanitizer solution that obviously all students as well as staff members will use each class period as they enter and then as they exit. There is a box of disposable masks that we have made available in case a student rips or tears one. They will be available to them. In addition to that is a box of gloves, depending on the student and the staff's comfort level with touching any contact surface. Every desk will actually be assigned to a student, so that student will have their own desk. The student will be responsible for cleaning or disinfecting that desk prior to them leaving. So the schedule is built so that there will be time at the end of the period to disinfect that table for the next class that may be coming in. We do look at this as an expectation, a student expectation, as well as a staff expectation. So all staff and all students, it's an all hands on deck situation. I do not expect our students to refuse doing this. If they do refuse to do this, certainly there's a nice little phone call to mom and dad or grandma or grandpa or aunt and uncle or any guardian or custodian or custodial parent to have a conversation. This is an expectation. So we do expect our students to be part of the process, much like we expect our staff to be part of the process of cleaning and sanitizing and keeping everyone safe and healthy. This is one of our distributive dining facilities. So as you can imagine, the traditional cafeteria tables can create a challenging scenario as it relates to social distancing. And so we have a couple different models for our cafeteria, but the distributive dining, this is an example of what lunch will look like. Yes, it looks very sterile. It's intended to be sterile. That is what it is intended to do. So is it fun? Probably not. COVID isn't really fun. And so I want to be honest is that we believe that this is in the best interest of our students and our staff in keeping them healthy and safe, but it certainly beats remote learning for an extended period of time. We learned a lot from the remote learning model, and thank you parents and guardians and students for your feedback related to the remote learning, because we've kind of learned from that. But we do believe that this is the model that we need to do. And so these are these temporary shifts in our world right now that if everybody does what they're expected to do, the counts will continue to decrease and a healthy learning environment will happen. Next slide. This is an example of one of our portable wash stations. So as you know, we use SmartPass. That was one of the questions that we asked about kids having to go to the bathroom. And so there'll be limited number of students going to the restroom at a time. SmartPass is an app on a student's phone as well as our computers. And so it will prevent a student from going to the bathroom if there's more than X number of students in that area going to the bathroom. I don't foresee that being a challenge. Certainly if there's a medical condition, there's a medical condition. So we're not restricting anyone, please know that. But in addition to sanitizing hands, washing your hands is equally as important. So we recognize that bathrooms really should be used for bathroom space. And so we have purchased 16 of these. These are Department of Public Health approved. They're commercial grade, and these will be in, so when we replace those desks where the pods are, there's a monitor kind of above it. They'll sit underneath kind of where the couches used to be. So each of our academic pod areas will have one of these, and then some of our vocational areas, depending on where they are situated and how many hand washing stations they have. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it on to Shannon.
All right, so this is just a little bit of information regarding the buses. Masks will be worn by all students and staff while on the bus. This is required, and students will sit with no more than one student to a bench, and they will alternate on alternating sides of each row. I'm going to show you a little picture of this in a second. So this will allow them to maintain 3 feet of physical distance. If there are siblings on the bus, they would be permitted to sit together. Windows will be open on the buses unless the weather is extreme and we need to close them. And students will be assigned to a particular seat on the bus that they'll need to use each day. So on the next slide, you can see just a little descriptive, like a visual of what the buses will look like. So the first seat behind the driver, we don't have monitors on our buses, so that first seat behind the driver will be open, empty, and then every other row, or every row with students sort of sitting along the aisle and then along the window, every other seat. So we are able to accommodate the 25 students per bus regulation. We're fortunate that we own our own buses, and our transportation director, Kathy Russo, is amazing at what she does and has been working for weeks to plan the routes. One important thing to note that will be a little bit different this year is that students will only be able to ride their assigned bus. They will not be able to take a bus home to a friend's house because we may not be able to accommodate for the extra student on that bus. If students have 2 residences, those have been accommodated for with our bus routes.
Just want to add that the school bus protocol and the configuration come from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, working in close contact with the Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Tom. All right, next slide.
Okay, so we are, I'm just actually looking at the slides on my other computer. So we're going to go right into any question and answers that we have at this time. We did have, just so that you know, we actually just finished a meeting prior to this with our faculty and staff. And we had the Department of Health, Judith Ryan from Danvers, that came and spoke to our staff members. She was not available for parents, but certainly we'll try to give you the information that she came, to us with. And I think it was very helpful. She is also going to be working, she's currently working with North Shore Community College, as well as St. John's Prep and other schools to assist. And particularly with North Shore Community College, as they have a lot of the programs that we have, she is going to be touring our facility next week to really look at our space, but also the shop areas and to how we can readjust and realign. Many of them are large enough, particularly since we're going to have 1 class of students in, to be able to do that quite nicely. There are a couple of programs that obviously we will work on, and she did a great job, and I may call upon Sandy Goldstein to talk about the distancing and the social distancing and what that means from close contact. And
I'm here. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Goldstein, Director of School Counseling, together with Kathleen Holman, our Human Resources Director, and our school nurses. We have been the points of contact with Ms. Ryan and the Danvers Public Health Office. So she has done a terrific job of not only educating us as a leadership team, but also our staff today on the definition, the current definition of close contact, which in fact is 6 feet of sustained contact for about 10 to 15 minutes. So that is consecutive contact. So within 6 feet for 10 to 15 minutes. And as the presentation goes along, but I will preview it here, our desks have been reallocated in every classroom to meet that criteria to ensure, and she has praised us repeatedly today and in previous meetings for the efforts we have made to ensure that we are putting everything preventative in place to limit any type of exposure among students while they're in the academic classrooms and the typical classrooms. And again, as Dr. Riccio said, the CTE areas, we're relying on Ms. Ryan's expertise to come in and actually consult with us to ensure that we are meeting all of those standards and exceeding those standards, quite frankly.
Thank you. So I'm going to start answering questions because just in kind of, we have a bunch of questions, which is fabulous, but I want to make sure that we get to as many as possible. So the first question is, does remote learning mean teacher-led Zoom sessions, or is remote learning primarily solo student online work? And so the answer to that is that it is definitely different than what it was last spring, and based on feedback from families, from students, kind of qualitative feedback, as well as quantitative, including teachers, they will be following a schedule. So while the students are learning, like Ms. Donnelly said, in our hybrid model, the days that they are not in session and they're at home learning, our teachers will actually be in the classroom or the shop at the same time. They're going to follow their schedule. Okay. If we need to go to remote, there is a separate schedule, which is in our reopening plan, but it will all be teacher led. Okay. So there is no, oh, here kids, here's your work on Monday, right? And do it as you can. The expectation is that that student is visible on either Zoom or Google Meet. We're using both platforms, and that the teacher is present. Okay, so that is the answer to that. The activities. So one question came up of whether or not we have activities. Okay. And the reason is that we don't know yet. So we're going to have some sort of activities, we believe, in some format, but a lot of it depends on transportation. We may not be able to do the late buses that we were able to do. So that's going to be a challenge. There was new information that came out from MIAA and the state last night, and then also today. And so we will be working with, obviously, the athletic department and getting some clarification on that. And then we're also waiting for further guidance from the state. So stay tuned on activities if you could, because there are some variables that may be out of our control, but we're hoping to do as many as we can in whatever format that we can do that. The first day of school is a Wednesday. Will that be an 8:45 start time? And so so every Wednesday we actually have a late start. And the reason for that is that we believe in collaborative learning with our teaching and our administrative staff, as well as other staff members across our school district. And I am going to say yes. And the reason being is that, one, it is in our teacher's contract. We just negotiated a teacher's contract for 3 years last year. And it was one of the things that we negotiated in because we felt that it was extremely important that teachers had that collaborative time. So that's, I'm going to say yes. And two, we're really trying to make the day as normal as possible for students that are coming into the hybrid model. So while we know we have to social distance and we have to wear masks and we have to exhibit good personal hygiene, what we do want to keep normal is a schedule. You know, many schools, including vocational schools, have actually eliminated all electives. They've eliminated AP classes, honors classes, and receiving feedback from both families, students, and staff, and our own beliefs and living our mission, we felt that it was extremely important to disrupt as little as we can. I'm not going to say that there aren't going to be changes to a regular schedule of what you may be used to seeing, but we are really trying to make it as normal as possible as it relates to the schedule. Next question. When students on campus change classrooms, how will the rooms be disinfected in between? Or are they staying in one classroom all day? They are not staying in one classroom all day. They are kind of in a cohort because we've separated them by either academic or shop by grade level. And the students and the staff will be wiping down the tables and they're wearing their masks. So in the afternoons, once the students leave, and in the evenings, they will be doing, I know you've all heard the term deep cleaning. It's kind of like, what does deep cleaning mean? They'll be doing the deep cleaning, the electrostatic machines, etc. In addition to that, we have hired additional temporary workers whose sole purpose is to keep all public contact surfaces clean and throughout the day, clean and disinfected throughout the day. Okay. So what measures are being taken for safety in the CTE classes? It's the same measures as we use for our academic classrooms. And in addition to that, every program is a little bit different. So those vocational teachers, there's the first 10 days of school was changed on the state level for all school districts in the Commonwealth. And that is to accommodate the teachers and staff that need to develop the protocols and strategies for each of their program areas. We are also working with, again, Judith Ryan at the Department of Health, who will be assisting us in something like clinicals. So for example, in companion animals, you're only having one grade of shop in that shop area. So that teacher, those teachers are actually working together collaboratively. In fact, both of them were in yesterday to start planning what that looks like. And so your teachers have been planning what that looks like in all of the program areas. Okay, so there is that remote model. If you have a concern regarding coming back to school, that would go to Sandy Goldstein, and we would work through that with you to a remote model. We are working on the details of that remote model at this time, and so you will have that information as soon as we are able to make it public. I understand that that can be give you some unrest, but we are giving you really the most up-to-date information that we have at the time. So we're trying to give you kind of real-time information. So Dr. O'Toole, Sandy Goldstein, and the vocational directors, Don Ducharme and Jill Sawyer, they have been working on that plan for the remote learning. And so you want to reach out to them. The cleaning protocols, what cleaning protocols are in place? Joe St. Pierre, I'm gonna direct that over to you as the Director of Facilities to just kind of review that with you.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. So cleaning protocols, we wanted to be sure that we still are able to do our normal cleaning, you know, taking out the trash, all the sort of stuff we do daily. We didn't want that to take away from the disinfecting that's going to be going on. So as Heidi mentioned, we hired a significant amount of staffing personnel to accommodate the disinfecting piece of that. Combination of sort of mechanical cleaning, wiping down, electrostatic cleaning, and then spray disinfecting. We've got a few different products that have worked well for us in the past, and a few new ones that we've had to procure because of the lack of supplies. So yeah, we're in good shape, and I feel very confident. I know Dr. Riccio feels pretty confident in the procedures we have.
Thank you. Are there any consequences for students and staff that don't follow the rules? Well, yes. I mean, like anything in life, there are consequences to behaviors that do not exhibit or live our mission. So that there is a policy in our handbook related specific to COVID, not only in our student handbook, but also our staff handbook. So you can refer to those handbooks based on the consequences. According to the Judith Ryan at the Department of Public Health, how we say things is extremely important. And so We expect that people are respectful. Okay. If you've ever forgotten, like last week I was in Newburyport and I was just about to go into a tent sale to get some shoes that I didn't really need. And I totally forgot. I had the mask, but I was talking, like I was in a meeting and I totally forgot. I walked out of my car and I didn't have my mask on. It was in my car. And then all of a sudden I'm ready to walk in the tent. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot my mask. And so I ran back and got it. That happens. Okay. If you've ever been in Market Basket and you went down the wrong way, okay, and you got either the death stare, that happens. Things happen. We have to assume positive intent. And that is going to be our mantra this year. Assume positive intent. Do not assume that people are trying to hurt you in any way. And so we kindly would say, hey, did you forget your mask? And then we wait for the reaction. And if that person doesn't give a really good reaction, again, we assume positive intent. But there are consequences to that, and that is laid out in both of our handbooks. Can you provide more information about the tents? Absolutely. They are on order. We have a 40 by 100 tent. And Joe, is it a 20 by 20? And
three 20 by 20s.
3 20 by 20s. And so we are waiting right now, obviously, for the tents to come in. And we will be having them professionally installed so that we can kind of learn how to install, obviously, a tent or, put one up properly. And so once those are in, they could be used for a variety of different things and options. So we're going to have them available, and they may be used for lunches. They may be used for mask breaks. They may be used for a class. A lot of our classes, if you think about it, are outside classes, whether it's natural resources, environmental science, horticulture, even companion animals when they're training the dogs is outside. Arboriculture, landscaping, carpentry, a lot of these programs. So if it's nice out and there's that fresh air flow, certainly we would want them to be outside. Yes, so we will send out a copy of the slideshow. This is also being recorded, just so that you know. So what we do is we post the recording to our website. So if you have a friend that has not, or if you logged on later, or if you have to leave, it is being recorded, so you'll be able to access that. Okay. So what is your protocol for cleaning the cafeterias as there are only 5 minutes between lunches? And I'm going to let Joe St. Pierre actually review that.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of it's a quick turnaround. We have a significant amount of staff in addition to the staff that we already had. And also Grace, the food service ladies will be helping us as well. Great question though.
And I'm going to be helping. So I know Miss Donnelly. So the administrative team also, I'm actually moving my office across the street. Not that they really want me to, but I'm going to, throughout this time so that I can also be available to help with cleaning in between classes, as well as moving students and staff and kind of keeping that social distancing. So it definitely is a team effort. It is an all hands on deck. We are going to be doing things differently. Students will have assigned seating in the cafeteria as well. And so Jill Sawyer, who is the CTE director, she's also in charge of the student reopening team, and her team, the action team, are coordinating that at this time. How do you propose social distancing in hallways with only a few minutes? Well, luckily there's only a few minutes in classes. So that means that, or in between classes. So that means that they have to hurry up and get to their class, and there's not going to be a lot of social chat time. But Judith Ryan, as you know, Sandy Goldstein just kind of explained, the social distancing or kind of close contact is 10 to 15 minutes with, you know, even if you have a mask on, less than 6 feet. So that being said, the couple minutes of passing time is within that time frame of the social distancing and close contact. So again, masks are going to be, or face coverings, I'm sorry, but face coverings are a must, and that's basically how it's going to be coordinated. We also have with 50% of the student population, it's actually really 25% of our student population are going to be in the academic wing. If you know anything about our building, we have 1 million square feet of space, but it's set up with multiple buildings and multiple outer buildings. So if you're in carpentry, for example, you will report directly to carpentry. You're not going to be entering in through the main entrance of the school. So therefore, it reduces the number. In addition to that, we have 2 academic wings on each side. You know, as soon as you walk into our building, there's the first floor that kind of spread out through the entire building to the right half and to the left half. And then there's that second floor as well of academic spacing. So that's how we'll be working on this social distancing. So if students choose to have their student go remote, will these students be on the same curriculum and be able to participate in co-op? They will not be able to participate in co-op if they are learning remotely, based on the fact that if they're working in a co-op job, more than likely the social distancing is probably, or quite possibly, and I'm not gonna say probably, quite possibly less than what we are actually providing. For example, my daughter works at Market Basket and she's in the courtesy booth, and there are 3 young ladies in the courtesy booth that are not social distancing, you know, for a 6 to 8 hour shift while they are wearing masks. So if the child has opted to go remote as a senior, they will not be able to participate in co-op. However, the curriculum will be the same. Obviously we need, and it will just be done remotely. Will Wednesday, yes. So Wednesday will still be a state late day. Will new students receive a laptop to use for remote school days? So if you're an incoming 9th grader, you should have received the technology information. We are a 1-to-1 school. And so our 9th and 10th graders are using Chromebooks. Our 11th and 12th graders are using iPads. We are a Google school, so we do use Google Classroom. We use Google Meet and Zoom as our platforms for remote learning and kind of meeting space. But if you need if you need technology, please look in your technology email or your freshman email package or your new student email package. If you don't have that, we will again send that out to you, but we are a 1-to-1 device. It does not have, it's not a PC though, it's a Chromebook, which is a lot more affordable than a PC. How will freshmen pick their shops? So freshmen are going to pick their shops in the same way that they would if they were not, if they were doing exploratory. So they're going to run exploratory in the same fashion. They will be able to explore the programs that they have selected through the discovery process. And we will be reviewing that at orientation. So we're going to have the family orientation coming up, and then obviously the student orientation on the 14th of September. Will you allow windows to be opened? Of course. And I love your name. So the name is, you know, Toto. So the actress from, sorry, I know I'm diverting. But so yes, of course we're going to allow the windows to be open. Right, Joe St. Pierre?
Yep, that's correct. There's no issue there.
Okay. Okay, so it says, I thought that 11th graders were going to be in school every Tuesday and Thursday and remote every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but the schedule shown looked like in school on Thursday and then the following week on Monday. Did I read that correctly? And so I don't want to answer wrong. So I know Ms. Donnelly and Dr. O'Toole probably have this down better than I. So if you could just explain that real quick. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Joe. So keep in mind that we run our weeks for students go from Wednesday to Tuesday. So it is every other day, but starting on Wednesday. So grade 11 would, or if we're talking grade 9, just to look at the top row here, grade 9 on Wednesday, which would be a day 1, is in class for academics. Thursday, they are remote. Friday, day 3, they are back on campus for academics. Monday, they are remote again. Tuesday, they are back on campus. So it is every other day, but from Wednesday to Tuesday is the way the week runs. If that helps, I hope that helps to clarify.
And that is why we'll look at a quarterly shift to balance out the 3 versus 2.
Right. It is also why we've made individual calendars for grade levels, in which will go out on Friday, so that you can follow just the schedule for whatever grade your child is in.
Thank you. Okay. Can students bring in their own disinfectant wipes instead of utilizing the shared bottle of the, yes, of course. I mean, if they feel they can, yes, disinfectant wipes, they can bring their own in. Will microwaves be available for student use during lunch? I'm gonna say hold on that, because I don't want to answer that without properly getting the response. So stay tuned. I do know that Joe Marino and Grace Clark have been working on the app so that students can pre-order their lunches the night before, and then we will have them ready for them in their designated areas. Is there a material safety data sheet available for the disinfectant? Yes, we actually use, well, we have to, EPA approved, and then also every vocational program area has what we call a material safety data sheet binder. It is also held in Joe St. Pierre's office, but in addition to that, our nurses have one, and then other key areas. We also use an online system for a material safety data sheet. So every time that we get a new chemical, we load that into the system. It stores our material safety data sheet for that. And then that way, if say somebody if ingests it or it gets into their eyes, the nurse obviously has what that protocol is, whether it's a flushing, whether it's to induce vomiting, etc. So yes, there is a material safety data sheet for everything that we use, including our whiteboard cleaner. How will you support new students in meeting classmates and making friends? It will be difficult for that to naturally occur. You are 100% correct. So we are going to be working much like we did last year during the remote learning environment, and to make sure that students feel connected. So part of the reason for doing a hybrid model as well is not just, you know, kids choose to come to us because they want a technical and agricultural education. And so because of that, we believe strongly in the relationships also that students build here. So we will make opportunities available for students to be able to meet each other and still be able to collaborate and have fun in a socially distancing way. Yep, I'm not going to repeat the question, so that's why I'm just kind of reading through. The cafeteria is set up just as North Shore Medical Center. Staff at the hospital are only allowed to be one person at a table. Great job. Thank you. I will pass that on to our facilities crew, and we do actually have a couple of our students working in facilities this summer through some grant and community service opportunities. And so I will pass that on to them, and as well as Dr. O'Toole, who has assisted, and I think Joel Spruance. But there's a number of people, again, all hands on deck, so thank you. How will the campus deep clean between cohorts every day? And so Joe, if you could explain that, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, sure thing. So we're going to tap in, obviously, between classes and whatnot. We're going to have to tap the students and the instructors to assist us in that. In the evenings, the school will be deep cleaned. Again, in addition to the normal cleaning that has to happen, we will have this disinfecting evolution also happening, and that we're going to support that. Again, we don't want to load the maintenance custodial workers that we already have now doing the cleaning. We don't want to give them additional tasks that they won't be able to complete. So we are going to increase the amount of staff we have to do this disinfecting in addition to the cleaning in the evenings. So we're as Heidi said, it's on all hands on deck, and the additional staff will help us significantly.
Thank you. And every vocational program obviously we purchased 25 of the electrostatic machines. So as you know, in a vocational school, we train them for a workforce, and we make sure that they're also trained to clean. So parents and guardians out there, if feel free to have them show you how they clean the shop by cleaning your house. Might be a good idea, but part of that training is really, one, how do you keep your work area clean, right, and free of debris? And then two, how do you clean and sanitize? So we have some great kind of expertise staff, whether it's in dental assisting, health assisting, or culinary arts, for cleaning and sanitizing. So there's going to be some training as it relates to staff and students, but the expectation is that everyone will be responsible for cleaning and sanitizing. And then obviously the custodial crew and then the temporary workers will go in after them, just to make sure. Okay. Where do I find the bus route for my 9th grader? So the bus routes are just being finalized. I met with Kathy Russo, who is the bus manager today. I recognize that there is some anxiety around bus routes, but they are being worked on. As you can imagine, with Miss Donnelly showing you what the bus actually looks like, the every other seat, plus also being identified with who's sitting in what seat. It is definitely a challenge in making sure that we have enough buses for our school. So please stay tuned. We are almost there. We're almost there. And if you know anybody that feels like if they have a bus license, a bus driver's license, or if you know anybody that may want to get their bus driver's license, we are hiring. And from what I am told, I don't know if this is accurate because I did not do a survey, but from what I am told, we have one of the highest rates, meaning hourly rate, for bus drivers. So if anybody feels like, hey, I want to drive my kid's bus to school, I'm sure they'd love it. Go get your bus license because we're hiring. Okay. Next, so material safety data sheet, bus route. So yeah, so students that have learning differences and are on an IEP, they will actually obviously have a same schedule. They're going to have the same support that they would get. So you should reach out to Sue Stevens, who is, do you want to wave, Sue? There's Sue. And she's pretty phenomenal. She has been working very hard with Sandy Goldstein on the schedule for students either on a 504 or an IEP. So that schedule will look very much the same. The supports are going to be the same. So have no fear. I have to say, I'm just gonna say, I think we have the best special education department in the state. So you are all very lucky, and to be supported by such caring adults is pretty phenomenal. So they do a great job with that. Discount for parking, absolutely. We're all about the discounts here at Essex Tech. We recognize that there were some challenges with obviously parking last year and then parking this year. And so while we have billed some of you, we are working on a modified cost for transportation. So if you could just stay tuned to that, please. We are definitely working on a reduction in the parking fee, okay? Any update on the schedule around athletics? More information to follow. We just got the information last night, and then a follow-up modification to that this afternoon. And so we are going to be working with our athletic director, Farah Lally, to be sure that there's some clear communication as it relates to athletics and MIAA. So that will come out separately. If your son is not taking the bus every day, yes, they will be assigned a seat. So we did that transportation survey, etc. So those students will be assigned a seat. If that child, say, is not there that day because you're driving them, that is fine. They're still assigned a seat. So no worries, okay? It just means that that seat is empty for the day. And we will miss him on the bus. Who is going to monitor how well the desk is being cleaned? Is it okay for the student entering the classroom to? Absolutely. So there may be a pre-post, what we call a pre-post. For example, when I go to the gym in the morning and I go to Orange Theory and you walk in and there's a protocol. So you take the sanitizer, you take the 2 wipes or the disinfectant spray, you go to your station, you clean your station, even though it's already been cleaned, and then you clean it between uses, and then you clean it again when you leave. So that will be a protocol that we will be looking at. So again, the bus schedule will actually come out as soon as we get it. So if you did not, if you have a question related to the bus, Kathy Russo, who is our bus manager, really is the person to contact. And so our email system is set up with first letter of your first name, and then your last name, and then at essextech.net. Okay. And sorry, I know there's a lot of questions about busing, so. We are not sure on the late buses at this time for clubs and sports because, again, we're waiting for guidance from the state. So if you could just hang tight on that. I wish we had an answer. And unfortunately, there's just some questions that we're not going to be able to answer at this time. If you do not have a strong internet connection, please reach out to the technology department. Joe, can you just wave? And so it's Joe Marino, and he is our tech director. We have purchased some hotspots. So if you need a hotspot, please let us know, okay? Absolutely let us know. Because we recognize that there may be multiple people on, so it might even just not be an internet connection, but there might be multiple people online.
Yeah, and you can reach out to us through our help desk ticket system just by emailing helpdesk, all one word, helpdesk@essextech.net.
So if you prefer, there are some students that prefer to work remotely instead of a hybrid model. And so you would contact Sandy Goldstein. That information was in our weekly as well as our reopening plan. And so we will make accommodations for you. How will students get to practice if they're at home and there's a practice at 3 p.m.? Well, that is exactly what we're trying to work out. So we're unique. And so there was supposed to be special guidance as it relates to regional schools. And so please stay tuned on that. Will Chromebooks be assigned to those who are borrowing day one of school? So Joe Marino, do you want to answer that question?
I will try. Unfortunately, we don't know at this point. We have ordered Chromebooks for every student that has requested them, as well as some spares. Right now, there is a national Chromebook shortage due to many school districts buying thousands at a time. So right now, it's anticipated that we will have them in time for school, but we don't have any guarantees on delivery. So one way or the other, we will make sure students have devices, whether they are iPads or reused older models, Chromebooks from carts, whatever it may be, we'll make sure students have something.
Thank you. Will parents know if there are reported cases in the school? So I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't have the sheet in front of me. But Sandy, do you feel comfortable answering what our Department of Health, Judith, gave us as a response to that?
Yes. So were we to have any situation where a student or staff person may need to be tested, or in fact ultimately is tested and test positive, that actually, let me restate that. Were a student or staff person to test positive, we're asking you as family members and caretakers to notify as a student person, myself or the school nurses immediately. I will be checking my email, or I also get my voicemail on weekends as well. That information gets reported to the Danvers Board of Health by me, or if it's an employee by Ms. Holman, at which point the Board of Health then takes next steps to notify and connect with other, if there were, I just lost the word, point of contacts,
Close contacts.
Thank you, Kathleen. Close contacts. We use our seating assignments, bus assignments, et cetera, to determine that. We ask for your cooperation. It might be scary as a parent or a student to be worried about reporting if you were in close contact, if something happened where a student may have been in close contact for a period of time, so that we can provide the accurate information to the Board of Health, at which point they connect with other cities and towns' boards of health. And proper notifications will be made when it's necessary. That being said, we also have to respect student and employee confidentiality. So it may not be everything that every family member wants, understandably, but I assure you that we will make all the necessary communications in as timely and efficient a manner as possible. And we're really looking to all of you to do the same and to provide us with the information that we need, and trust that we will be confidential to whatever extent we can. Kathleen, anything else?
No, I think you
Thank-
covered it well.
Yeah, and I think the close contact really helped me as not just a superintendent, but as a mom myself, with Judith's explanation of what a close contact means. And so we're hoping to get her onto the next family meeting that we have. She just was not available this evening, but we're hoping that we can get that information to you.
I do want to stress that she stressed to us that should you have questions, Ms. Holman and I are point of contacts to Judith, but she encourages families to reach out to their local boards of health, or go to their town websites, city and town websites, because each of those should have information that can help you to navigate not only what's going on in your city or town, but how to get the current information. She is not necessarily a resource for all of our family members. She's our point of contact, unless you're a Danvers resident. So please do, we encourage you, as she encourages you, to check out your local city or town websites for up-to-date information. There are days where things have changed. In fact, today, there are some updates that we need to catch up on as well. So
Great. Thank you. So we're going to actually create a frequently asked question type scenario. That was a recommendation as I'm reading from one of our administrators, which I think is a great idea that we can actually all refer to, including parents and families. So buses for orientation day. Shannon, knowing as the principal, are you able to respond to that?
Yes, absolutely. Buses do run for freshman orientation day, absolutely. So any new student that's coming for orientation, the buses will run.
Great.
And again, bus routes will be up on the website prior to that. And if you have specific transportation questions, please do reach out to Kathy Russo.
So the question is, can academics be remote and CTE be in school? Not at this time. So if you do choose a remote option, it would be remote for both. So the answer to that question is not at this time. What is the protocol? Okay, so we already did that. So the question is, if a student is ill or injured and won't be able to attend school, is there a remote option for the in-person days? So the great part, okay, there's no great part about COVID, I'm sorry. One of the lessons learned in this experience last year, and I think you probably already heard this, is, oh, no more snow days, right? Because it's like, we don't want any more snow days, we want to get out in June. And so with that comes the ability for us to be able to offer that learning experience for the student if they become ill or injured in some way. So the answer would be yes. Learning will be continued. So say if your child, obviously if they can, but if your child got a broken leg and, you know, is laid up for a couple of days, guess what? He can still learn. So that's the fun part about education, is that we can provide that learning opportunity for them when they are recovering. I'm sure they'll be pleasantly surprised and happy about that. So students in an academic class vary. I'm going to let Sandy respond to this based on, she's working on the schedule. I don't know if Kim Dixon is on the call, but she is working on the schedule, so.
Can you read the whole question, please, Heidi?
I'm sorry. The question is, will the academic classes still be full during the weeks when grade 11 is there, and how many classes are in academics?
Oh, great question. So simply put, there will only be one grade in academics on any given school day. So for instance, if 9th grade is in academics, 12th grade is the other grade on campus on that day, and they are in career tech ed. So they are in their shops. We were able, that afforded us the opportunity to utilize every academic classroom that would have otherwise been utilized by grades 9 and grade 11 to spread out classes. And in some case, if class enrollment, there are some classrooms where the maximum seat capacity, that's what we're calling it, seat capacity is 12, 15. I think I saw one question where someone thought all classes might be 15. In fact, there are some classes where seat capacity, our science labs are 20 and 25. So were we to have a course where the enrollment was, ironically, very, very frequently 17, we were able to shift classes because grade 11 will not be in academics the same day as grade 9. Again, it also afforded us the opportunity to spread out classes. Not every classroom is being used. A lot of classrooms are being used, but for those of you who are upper parents, freshmen typically were in one area of the building on academics. And now we will be spreading things out a little more to lessen congestion in the hallways, among other things. So I hope that answered your question. And I think if it hasn't already been shown, it's in our plan. I believe on page 6 is our grid that shows, 9 and 11, I'm sorry, 9 and 12, the days they're in the building, and 10 and 11, the days they're in the building.
Thank you. Will students still have gym during CTE class? So gym is a negative. However, we will be having still wellness classes and career enhancement classes. So our gym teachers will be working, and they have been working on some curriculum as it relates to wellness. Yep. Okay. What if kids are not great at cleaning the desks for other students? Would it make sense to have the kids clean their own desks? So I'm going to say yes and yes. So practice, practice, practice. So I am hopeful that the students, upon practicing how to clean the desk, will actually get better at it over time. If you were to see my daughter's room, that's not always the case. So it's a great idea for students to also clean their own desks and take ownership in that. But the teachers will also be observing. So know that is that, you know, the teachers aren't going to leave the room and then, you know, let the kids do their own kind of devices. So we may do a training on how to properly clean and sanitize. And again, they do this in many of the shops already, because in many of the shops, you do have to clean and sanitize a work surface. Okay. But thank you for asking that. Okay, lots of questions about the bus schedules. I wish I could give you, but it is coming, trust me. We actually do not necessarily have a school supply list that we send out. I know that many schools do. We are really trying to go as paperless as possible. So one thing that we have is we have a lot of technology. We have a lot of, I mean, even our passes are on your cell phone, okay? And so if a student, you know, does a bathroom pass or a pass to guidance, it's done directly on their electronic device. So we are really trying to reduce the number of paper, not just because it costs money and we're killing trees and we're actually an agricultural school. So we should be really thinking about sustainability options. But in addition to that, we have invested a lot in technology and software that allows us to be paper-free. And so you don't really need too much other than that Chromebook, you know, device. And if obviously you're 11th or 12th grader, it will be an iPad. What does the staggered haul times look like? I'm not sure I understand that question, other than when the bell rings, right? You know, we're all going to kind of stop at a certain time. We'll make an announcement to clean and sanitize your area, etc. And then they go and pass. The passing time is the passing time. So we're trying to make it as normal, you know, for a student as possible. If a senior gets a parking space but then has car issues, will that student be allowed to ride the bus? The answer would be if you said you needed to ride the bus, even if it's intermittently, you will be given a seat, okay? And that's that. So you just kind of want to know that. So we can't adjust bus stops for people that want to ride somebody else's bus. So I understand that many people say, oh, I'm going to so-and-so's house after school. We can't do that, unfortunately, because we have set our buses in a situation where it is every other seat, and then it's also stationed by people. So the schedule. So when do we expect the schedule to come out? We have worked, I'm going to say we, I don't mean me, so I don't do the schedule, but our team, which is made up of primarily Sandy Goldstein and Kim Dixon, who is not necessarily on the call right now, but Kim is our data specialist. And obviously there's others that weigh into it, but they have been working tirelessly on a schedule that's going to fit the needs of not only social distancing, but also consistency of staff, as well as consistency of curriculum. And so this schedule will be out, I know you're not gonna like this answer, as soon as we can get it out. So how about it's going to be out before September 16th? And the reason why we say that is things could change, obviously, on the state level. But we want to make sure that if a student has any special education services or gets academic support, we want to make sure that they're properly placed, you know, in those classes. But I will count on the fact, or I'll tell you, if they're a 9th or 10th grader, they're going to get math, science, social studies, and English. So those are definitely going to be classes that they're going to have. And that's made up of 4 periods. So that means you only have 1 period left, which is your elective period. And so then your elective period would be Spanish or another elective. So that's pretty much it. There's not much to offer in your freshman and sophomore year as it relates to coursework. So, so they will be getting that. Geometry, algebra, more than likely, right? English, they're going to learn how to write and read, well, read, write, articulate, present. So count on that for a schedule. As a vocational and agricultural school, the exploratory piece is kind of the cool piece. And so those kids, Jen Skane actually just is on right now. Jen, do you want to just wave real quick? She has been working diligently on the freshman exploratory schedule, and she'll be working with the vocational directors to get that out. All right. Yeah, so my child does not use typical hand sanitizer products. Will they be given a hard time bringing their own? Of course not. Of course not. If they have their own hand sanitizer, that's fabulous. So let them use it. Remember, well, we all know this because we all were in kindergarten at some point, you have to wash your hands. So the sanitizer is only as good as are your hands even clean to begin with. And so that is why we have those portable hand washing stations that are commercial grade in conveniently located areas. So it's like 20 seconds, you sing happy birthday, or you say your ABCs, I think, twice, and then your hands are clean, hopefully, if you use hot soapy water. And then you dry it, and then you sanitize. So absolutely, you can bring your own hand sanitizer. Will out-of-district busing continue? Absolutely. We are a regional school district. We have over 300 students from out of district, and they will certainly have transportation. We cannot schedule a different bus, which I had already said before, but once your bus is assigned, that's pretty much your assignment for the year. Obviously, if you move from one town to another, that's different, and you would work with Kathy Russo, but you cannot take a friend's bus home with you. Let's see. Okay.
While Dr. Riccio was reading the questions, I want to make everyone aware that we have received over 200 questions through the Q&A feature. And if we haven't gotten to yours yet, we're just working on the list as fast as we can.
And we can have other meetings, guys. So if we haven't answered, have no fear. It's now 7:27, my husband's birth date. Will late buses still be offered? Again, we will wait on that. Is there a change to student drop-off pickup at school? That is a fabulous question. We are working with our school resource officer, Mike Chase, who is phenomenal, as well as others, to really look at the traffic patterns and routes. One kind of like hiccup in that is that our 40 by 100 tent has to go somewhere. And guess what? It's going to go somewhere in a parking lot that has a flat surface. So I cannot guarantee, unfortunately, at this time, that that travel pattern will not change. But please hold tight and know that we are working as fast as we can to make sure that we have this information. With lunch being socially distanced, do kids need to bring a lunch only? Will there be any other options for them to buy anything else? We do have 2 vending machines that have healthy snacks available. We need to check to see with the Board of Health whether or not they feel like we should be able to still offer that. We also are going to do a pre-order lunch so that those students that pre-order their lunch, it will be boxed up. So there will not be the traditional cafeteria lines at this time. 1, it is difficult to socially distance, and 2, we will be needing those staff members to assist with the cleaning as well. How are we going to know if your child is getting transportation or not getting transportation? I believe that Kathy Russo has assumed that you're getting transportation. Is that correct, Ms. Donnelly?
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you. So all 1,500 students are going to be assigned a bus route as well as a bus.
Unless they filled out the transportation survey and said that they did not need a bus.
There you go. So if your information has changed, what I would do again is to reach out to Kathy Russo and say, you know, my situation has changed and we need transportation. So so this is a question about school lunch and debit cards and all that good stuff. And so Joe or Grace Clark, who's our food service director, if either of you can just explain a little bit how the lunch works and payment, that would be fabulous.
Sure. So we use Heartland School Solutions for our point of sale and our processing. So we will be sending home information on how to sign up for My School Bucks, which will allow you to put money onto your student's lunch account so they can pay in advance and have money on their account as they need it.
And I will tell you that we do not deny anyone lunch. Again, we do not deny anyone lunch that has not paid their bill. Okay. I have seen Grace Clark, our food service director, actually literally take a $20 bill out of her own pocket during lunch and put it on the kid's account. So please don't worry, you know, I mean, it happens, you know, I know I get responses all the time because my kid probably eats 5 lunches, or I don't know what she does, but she eats a lot because every other day I have to put another $25 on. So, but don't worry, your child will get fed. Okay.
Grace, you unmuted. Did you want to add something?
No, absolutely. Dr. Ritchie covered it all. They never refuse the lunch. If the money's there, that's fine. And if it's not there, they're still going to eat. So never have any worry about that whatsoever.
Yeah. Will students be able to meet one-on-one with guidance counselors as needed? The answer is absolutely. Every office suite has been given one of the clear acrylic desk barriers, so you'll be able to talk to your counselor in the same fashion that you were able to talk to them before. There is some social distancing and guidance, and Ms. Goldstein and her staff have done a great job, as well as the special education staff of Sue Stevens and her staff. So kind of waiting rooms are going to look a little bit different. You know, there's going to be green taped off areas of where you can sit or can't sit. Okay, so yes, of course. I would like to thank you for all of your hard work. I think that, okay, so thank you so much. I will pass that on. So certainly, as you know, this is all a team effort, and we, you know, Shannon and I were just saying right before this, because it's like, you know, the what if, right? There's always that unknown. And so it's like, well, what if the governor says we're going to go into remote? Okay, well, at least we know that we have done everything we can to get kids back to school, because we wholeheartedly believe that this is where they need to be. And so, and when I say we, I actually mean all of us. There isn't one, you know, staff member, one admin team, a custodian, a maintenance, a clerical, that have not worked their, I don't want to say it because then I'll swear and I have to put money in a swear jar, but that have not worked really hard to make sure that our kids, one, are safe. Kids and students are safe. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety and food is critical, right? And shelter. And if those basic needs are met, then they can learn. We have done as much as we can, and we will continue to do, and we will continue to monitor. So please know that it is a team effort. To clarify my previous question, are they going to limit number of days per week? Will this carry to a later date to give them? So if that person, I don't understand this question. So if you could just privately email me that if I did not clearly articulate your answer, just email me privately and we can either have a phone conversation or, you know, go offline. Are all of the teachers going to be teaching, or will there be subs for teachers on Medical or Family Medical Leave Act? We have a couple teachers that may or may not qualify for the Family Leave Act. Obviously, that's a personnel matter that we cannot necessarily divulge to our staff or our students or our families. However, there will be teachers in the room. There will be counselors available. We are very fortunate to be resource rich, and another thing that we have provided for our faculty and staff is that we have just hired 2 former staff members who will be, who are hired to take care of or oversee the remote learning of our staff members' children. So say if I'm a teacher and I have a 4th grader and they're gonna be remote 2 days a week. Those 2 days a week, I'm not gonna leave my 8-year-old at home, but I'm gonna bring them in here, drop them off, and then these 2 staff members will oversee that remote learning. And that is being done free of charge because we were able to get that through a grant. So we are very fortunate with that, but you will have staff members that will, they will be, unless the teacher is ill, okay? So say if the teacher calls in sick because they have a sick family member or what have you, you may, you know, that student may get a sub. Other than that, we will be having, you know, teachers and guidance counselors obviously available for students. Okay, let's see. So sports, again, we know that guidance just came out. It looks like, and again, I'm not reading from a script right now, so please do not quote Mrs. Riccio, but it looks like cheerleading and football can practice. It looks like the other sports are on at this time. So we're trying to figure out and waiting for the state to give us more guidance on what does that look like, because practicing, like today the commissioner said, if there's 100 people on the football team, there isn't necessarily going to be 100 people on the football field practicing at the same time. So we're still waiting actually for guidance on that, okay? So just please know that. How will you handle sick days or dismissal from school? Will there still be a call out needed? Yeah, so we still want to know, one, that your child is okay. So again, it's going to be the same protocol for sick or dismissal from school. Okay, we need to know doctor's appointments are obviously appreciated, including if they are not present. So during the online day. So if we're in a hybrid model, there's an online day, please know that we will be taking attendance. And so it's going to look exactly like a regular school day. So if they have a doctor's appointment on that online day, or we would need to know that, or if they're getting dismissed. Okay.
Can I add one thing there, Dr. Riccio?
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Please do.
We have adjusted our attendance policy in the past. In order for an absence to be considered excused, a student needed a doctor's note. At the request of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we will now be taking parent note. So if your child is sick, we don't want them to come to school. We do want you to keep them home. And if you just send us a note, we'd like you to call in so we know that they're safe at home, but also when they return to school, if they just bring a note from you letting us know that they were in fact homesick, that will allow us to count that absence as an excused absence.
Thank you. Okay. And another thank you. So thank you so much, Wyatt Devlin's mom, Holly. And will freshmen get their schedules prior to 9:15? The answer would be yes. It was kind of a half joke when I said they're going to get it on the 16th. They'll get it before then. It's just not going to be tomorrow or Friday. So we're hoping to get the schedule out to the teachers early next week. Barring no unforeseen changes or circumstances, it would then get out, shortly before then. So before Labor Day, I'm going to make an assumption before Labor Day.
Can we jump?
But if it's Monday of Labor Day, please don't, flood my email and say, where's my schedule? Because it just means that something happened.
Can I clarify just one thing?
Absolutely.
So that applies for all upperclassmen schedules. So grades 10, 11, and 12, they should get them online because they're already in the Aspen portal. But for freshman schedules, they will get those schedules at orientation when they arrive to orientation. So just a little change for grade 9.
Yeah, so that would be 9/14 then, usually on like the day of orientation. Thank you, the grade 9. Okay, so CPAC meeting. I can definitely check Sue Stevens. It looks like the question is, in my hometown, there was a separate CPAC meeting for families on IEPs.
You and I can talk about that. We can certainly do that. Additionally, my contact information is in the reentry plan that all the folks received, as well as on the website. So I'm happy to take individual emails and phone calls as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Google Classroom, so the learning management system. So we have two things here. We have a student information system, which is Aspen, or some schools call it X2. Then the learning management system is actually Schoology, is what we're using as a learning management system. However, we use Google Classroom as a platform. So Schoology is something that we're piloting for a number of students, teachers this year. And then next year, that will become our learning management system. We do use Google Classroom. So teachers are going to be using Google Meet and Zoom kind of as their online, system. But yes, we use Google Classroom. Absolutely. And sorry if I missed my email that may contain the answer to my question. Where do I call or go to sign up my daughter for bus or pickup? You would go to Kathy Russo, which is KRUSSO at EssexTech.net. Are students assigned to lunchrooms? The answer is yes. They are assigned to lunchrooms as well as tables. So each person has their own table as well as lunchroom. Will students be able to use their cell phones during lunch period for communication with their friends? That's an awesome idea. So if you want to FaceTime or, I'm going to say I personally don't have a problem with that because you all have used your cell phones during lunch anyway. I love it because now you're going to use it as a communication tool with your friends. Whereas before, I would see kids, 10 of you, sitting around a table all on your cell phone on Snapchat or whatever, and not even communicating to the people next to you. So I think it's a great idea, but please don't quote me on that because I'm probably going to say, why did you say that, Mrs. Riccio? They're not supposed to be using it. But I don't mind it, but remember, it's social distancing, okay? And it's also appropriate stuff, right? I mean, we're doing a lot of work around appropriate and inappropriate behaviors. And so Jen Skane and Joel Spruance, who are going to be working on that and through a variety of different programs, as well as our CTE directors. but we're going to do some training on a digital footprint. If anybody has heard that term before, or if you haven't, how about Googling it and checking how many kids have lost their college scholarships or college placement based on their digital footprint of what they've posted online. So we're going to do some training around that, but yes, we can actually communicate that way if that's, I mean, I'm going to say yes. What do you think, Miss Donnelly?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have answered for everybody. Is there an option for students with a parent with health issues to be able to do academics remote fully and CTE hybrid? Not at this time. I think it's if you decide to do remote, you do remote, you're kind of all in for remote. So at this time, the answer would be no. Okay, is attending school fully remote an option? Yes, it is. Please make sure that you reach out to Sandy Goldstein on that. As a student in ET, I am curious to how the shop is going to work. How are labs and trainings going to happen? And is field work even possible? Yes, if you actually saw the pictures today of Mr. Crofts and 3 other teachers out there socially distancing in the pond, actually, if you listen to Dr. Fauci, he talks about being outside, and being outside is actually a benefit, kind of that fresh air intake. Oh, thank you. And so our kids, these are grade 9, incoming grade 9 students as part of our academy, and they worked outside very well, and they had a great time, and they were socially distancing, and if they were not, remember it's that 10 to 15 minute window for the close contact, okay? So there's going to be a lot of training that is involved. And if you think about, you know, some people have some challenges with personal space, right? So if you get into somebody's kind of personal zone, they can sometimes get a little anxious. So let's pretend, I guess, that we all have that kind of bubble or that personal space challenge. And so we need to respect that for people. And so that's what we're going to do. So there'll be training around that, okay? When will the students schedule in bus? So we already discussed that. We discussed that. So we are, okay, so the question is, those opting to be fully remote, are they included in the classroom with hybrid students? We are finalizing that plan right now. As you know, obviously going fully remote presents some challenges on the CTE side. So we are working with other vocational school systems and really helping each other and learning from each other. And so Dr. O'Toole and the 2 CTE directors will have that information for you shortly. And patience is obviously welcomed at this time. I think all of us have learned how to have patience and kind of roll with it. If anything, we've learned how to roll with it, so that's important. How are students afforded the opportunity to socialize? Well, it is going to look different, and I completely understand that. There's not going to necessarily be the high fives, you know, that we used to be able to do in the hallway. I guess we're doing elbows now. Elbows are a thing now, so we're working on that. But we're going to do the best that we can. That's what we're going to do. I will say, it beats being at home 5 days a week, 7 or 8 hours a day, because that can be very isolating. So many of us who had hesitation coming into the building felt really comfortable once we got into the building, and we felt like we can totally do this. You know, if we follow the protocols, we believe that we can do this. We have 2 full-time, oh, so the question is what nursing staff do you have? We have two full-time nurses anyway. We are hiring a daily nurse who is an RN. And then Kathleen Holman, who you do not see live, but she's online. She is our Director of Human Resources. She also has her BSN. So and she was a health assisting teacher and a school nurse in her prior life. So we do have nursing staff, and so we are well equipped to obviously handle that situation. So are full classes being able to accommodate the 6-foot distance? Yes. We did our distancing 6 feet apart for a student to student, and that is chair to chair. Okay, that's how we did it. And so some of our classrooms are larger classrooms that afforded us the opportunity to have more desks in there. And so the teacher will be in the room. If it is an inclusion class and there's 2 teachers, it's an inclusion class and there's 2 teachers. Okay. If electives change or are eliminated, will they have enough credits to graduate? The answer is, of course. I'm going to tell you again, flexibility, and flexibility has been extremely important, but flexibility is also on the state level as well. And so really the priorities are what we need to get you to graduate, and we do whatever it takes to get you there. So please do not worry about that, okay? Classes for, it says, what will class sizes be for CTE? So it depends, it varies. Every program is different based on how many kids selected that program. And so we'll go from there, okay? So if you're in this one particular program already and you know how many students are in that program as a grade level, that is how many kids will be in that program. If a student needs to visit a counselor during the day, will they be able to go to their office? The answer is yes. I am assuming that student will have an appointment card, or an appointment, not a card, because we're using SmartPass, which is an app for now, so paper free. So they will have a pass actually from their school counselor that will say, please come to my office at this time. And so yes, they will be able to have an appointment with their counselor. Will shops be able to work with the public? The answer would be yes. At this time, however, so it's going to be a gradual, okay, reintroduction. So for example, in companion animals, I have a dog, he's adorable. And so I bring him to Angel Animal Clinic. And then I also bring him for dog training. He's not very good in dog training. He doesn't get along with the other dogs. He thinks he's bigger than he is. But I am an employee of the district. So for companion animals to do the training, they need dogs, okay? They can't walk around with stuffed animals. So what we're doing is we will be rolling it out with staff first. So when we say public, we're doing it with staff first. Same thing for grooming. Okay, Stout, my pup, actually really misses the kids. So he's looking forward to coming back. But you know that if you're in a program like Companion Animals, you know that a lot of your customers are staff, which is really cool. So yes, there'll be opportunities to work in that same way. Have you modified or update your HVAC system for optimal airflow? I'm going to have Joe St. Pierre answer this question.
We sure have. We did a couple things. One of which was the first of which is we changed the tuning of the HVAC system from efficiency to airflow changes, or airflow changes. So instead of the system being tuned to maximize the amount of energy we save, we changed it to maximize the amount of air changes we experience in a day in the different spaces. On top of that, we also had a third party come in and do an assessment of all of our major HVAC systems. So we had a sort of a fresh lens to look at it, make sure we weren't missing anything maintenance wise. And our sort of ace in the hole is that we have on staff a licensed HVAC technician whom has spent 20 years of his career working in hospitals and stuff. So he's brought us, he's kind of showing us a few tricks of what they do.
One sec. I don't have my mask on. Sorry.
That was great. So, thanks.
Sorry. Okay. So that is actually how you would behave, right? So if somebody is coming into your office or your safe zone, you would say, hold on a second. So that's a perfect, I mean, it was impromptu, but exactly.
I was kind. Somebody was opening my door and I didn't have my mask on. So I was like, I normally would say, get away from me.
No, you would not.
I would not.
Okay.
Kidding.
Or a little punchy, guys. It's been like, an interesting few days. So is there room for all students in each class? Absolutely. Our custodial staff, Sandy Goldstein and Joel Spruance, there was a whole team of people that really worked hard at making sure that happened. So there is enough space. Is there a specific uniform needed for academic classes? I wish, but there isn't. How about khakis and a navy collared shirt? Sorry. I like uniforms. It's just in my blood. So anyway, no, there isn't. Of course, appropriate wear though, right? No slippers, no pajama bottoms. We are in school. We're training you for the future workforce. So appropriate wear would always be appreciated. What is the rough time for the parent orientation, Shannon? Actually, is Jen here? Jen?
Jen texted me that she had to. Oh, there she is, though.
Hey, Jen.
I am here. I think that on average, we tried to keep it to an hour minimum.
What time does it start?
It's 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay. So we got that. If your child is sick or has symptoms such that stay home, do they go to remote learning for that day? They do not. It's just like if you are sick. However, it is your child's responsibility to contact the teachers to get their work. That way they stay up to speed with the curriculum, much like if they were in school. Okay. For health assisting and dental, will the students be able to do their clinicals? That is a great question. There's two things here that tie into this. There is guidance from the state, and Jill Sawyer, who is one of the vocational directors, and myself, we're on the reopening team for vocational schools. But also we are working with Judith Ryan. She is the Department of Health in Danvers, and she is working with North Shore Community College on their reopening. That also includes the clinical aspect of it. So we will be working on that plan to get you your clinicals in order to get your CNA license, okay?
Heidi, can I just jump in with that?
Absolutely.
So there was just recent guidance from the Department of Education this last week that no dental or health or any medical programs will be going out on any clinical for the first 2 months of school.
Yes.
So we're going to have to be creative with how we practice our skills in the program setting.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to really, I think working with North Shore Community College, who have very similar programs as ours, is going to be very important for us as we work through those clinicals. We also wrote a grant recognizing that some of our students, so for example, our seniors normally would have gotten their CNA their junior year, right? So we have written a grant in order to accommodate, and hopefully we get it from the state, but any license or certification that our students were not able to get as a result of the closure will be paid for by the state. And we even put that in for cosmetology. So another bonus, not that it's a bonus for COVID, but kids in cosmetology, if we get the grant, will not have to pay for their license if they're a senior. So the next question, will mask wearing be observed? Not everyone follows the rules. I completely get it. We have a policy that has been approved by our school committee for both the state as well as, I'm sorry, not the state, the staff as well as the students. It's a discipline infraction. So if in our school as a vocational agricultural school, we have a discipline code called OSHA violation. So if a kid is fooling around in shop, that's an OSHA violation that gets coded in our discipline as an OSHA violation. We would also do a similar situation if they're defiant as a COVID violation. So yes, there are consequences. The next question, UV lights being used. Joe, can you please answer that? Because I know you answered that for the staff.
Yeah, so we looked at it, we evaluated it for the HVAC systems, and it wasn't really feasible right now. There wasn't a lot of good data for it. We're still sort of evaluating it. There's some passive systems. Well, let me back up. One of the reasons that we decided not to pursue it any further is because we do have a very new sort of cutting edge HVAC system, and it takes in 100% fresh air. So we decided not to pursue that. There are, however, there's a lot of really cool solutions coming out now as far as surface disinfecting with UV stuff and sort of like passive air purification. So we're looking at them. We're definitely evaluating them.
Okay. So how will mask breaks work? So the mask breaks will be part of the class schedule. And so they will work in the classroom seated, facing forward. And so, and we're working on that plan. There'll be actually a protocol, and that's what we are working on with the Department of Health. Will cosmetology be able to bring clients in again since regular salons are now open? I hope so, because I get my eyebrows done in cosmetology. So much like the health and dental, the first 2 months of school, there will be no live kind of clients at this time. However, when we did the reopening plan, Ms. Sawyer and I, with the state, we actually modeled the reopening in the same fashion that the businesses reopened. So I'm going to say yes, but not September 16th. But if you're a student, you know, typically in the first month of school anyway, we do safety training, we do OSHA training, you know, the equipment training, everybody gets signed off. So usually we don't open up immediately anyway. Do you have a plan for the winter? So I'm not quite sure about this question. Our plan is our plan. When I say outside, if you know anything about our campus, if you're in Arbor, you're not really cutting down a tree inside. I mean, unless you're at maybe Encore and there's literally trees inside of Encore. I've never been in, but I've seen them on pictures. So Arbor is an outside, they are literally outside in February, and they're climbing trees and they're cutting down trees and they're trimming trees. Same thing with landscaping. Landscaping is doing some of the snow removal, you know, with our custodians and maintenance. If you're a carpenter and you're framing, you're more than likely outside in the elements. So, you know, the plan is the plan, similar to what it is now. We are purchasing, like I said, the 40 by 100 tent, where we could do some outside dining, but what it looks like right now is not going to, meaning what it looked like last year is not necessarily what it's going to look like this year. Okay. I love this question. Assume no girlfriend, boyfriend bubbles allowed. That's a really good assumption, whoever said that. So yeah, no boyfriend, girlfriends or public displays of affection. We try to reduce that or eliminate that anyway, pre-COVID, and we're certainly not going to allow that during COVID or post-COVID. Will assigned seating in the cafeteria be by shop so the kids can sit together or alphabetically? I am concerned about my child not getting to spend that time with friends. That has not been determined yet. As you can imagine, we're trying to reduce traffic patterns. So when you think about the least number of steps that a person takes to get to a location. So we will have more information on that. Our IEP accommodations going to be discussed with the families before school begins to help the kids adapt to the new program. So I'm going to let Sue Stevens answer that. That's really kind of, obviously every student has a different accommodation or plan, so.
Certainly teachers will be provided with the IEPs, but if you have specific questions just about how we would implement those, again, please reach out to me via phone or email, and I'll be happy to speak with you.
Thanks. Okay, so again, there is an option for remote. So please contact Sandy Goldstein on that. The drop-off, how is drop-off going to take place? I believe I answered that, but please stay tuned as we're working with our school resource officer on that. The question is, when will iPads be handed out? Joe Marino, if you could answer that question, please.
So that will depend directly on when we get them shipped to us. If it doesn't look like we're going to get them in time, we will come up with a backup plan, and it will most likely, although I can't commit to this solid, be a sign up for an appointment slot so that we're minimizing any large crowds.
Thank you. Should incoming freshmen have a school email? So those will be given out. Joe, if you could just explain the school email.
Yep, so all of our students are given Essex Tech student email accounts, as well as their Google accounts to get to Google Docs. Those will be given to new students during orientation in their packets, as well as their Aspen logins.
Okay, could you also just, there are some members that are incoming sophomores or juniors, so they have not received anything yet. Could we get some information on that, please?
As far as accounts go, or they didn't receive technology information?
Everything.
Sure thing.
So for the upperclassmen that have recently been accepted, congratulations. We're excited to have you. And we will send that information out to you shortly or tomorrow. How's that? What is your protocol on isolating and reporting a positive case in the school? If Kathleen Holman can talk about isolation.
Hi, it's Kathleen Holman. I'm the Director of Human Resources. I'm also the former school nurse and health assisting teacher. So we are following the protocols set out by the by DESE and revised today by both DESE and DPH to isolate any individuals that's showing any symptoms of COVID. They will be seen by one of the school nurses, not necessarily in the nurse's office, but assessed and then sent to an isolation area in order to be picked up by a parent or caregiver. As for any positive case, as Sandy Goldstein had talked about earlier today, this evening, about maintaining confidentiality, et cetera, folks that would be considered a close contact would be informed by the public health nurse in Danvers, or with her permission and direction from us. So not necessarily would you know who that person is, but we would inform anyone that would be involved in protocols taking under account for isolation at home or quarantine.
Thank you. Should freshmen bring their Chromebook to orientation to get it set up? Anyone? Joe Marie?
I will take that and say no. We will either have some kind of parent night where you come in and get it enrolled, or we will do it during the school day.
When is parent orientation?
It is on the 25th, which is next Tuesday. And it is virtual from 6 to 8.
Thank you.
Or 6 to 7. I think Jen said an hour.
Okay. If you originally had 24 kids in a class and now have 12, this sounds like a math problem. Do 12 come in and 12 work remote and then the switch? The answer would be no. So we were able to accommodate a 12 and a 12 with 2 different teachers working simultaneously. Or no, what? Well, it's all one grade level that's coming in.
Right. So we would accommodate for that class in a room big enough for 24 students at 6 feet apart.
Right. So you all come in at the same time.
Right. We have the entire space of school available that's not occupied by CTE with one class, one 9th grade class or 11th grade class.
Yeah. So are there more tables available for outside eating when the weather permits? Obviously, we want you outside to get the fresh air. So we will work on that with Joe St. Pierre, who is our director of facilities. Do you have a student or family directory? We do not, because there's obviously some privacy considerations. However, we do have a PTO and they have a Facebook page. We do ask that you like all of our social media, including the Facebook PTO, and we highly recommend that you join the PTO. It is a great, fabulous group of parents that really work tirelessly for all kids. So we do ask that you join that, and that would be one way to stay connected, but also to connect with us on social media. It says, will contact tracing be conducted? I believe we have already answered that question through Judith Ryan and Sandy Goldstein and Kathleen Holman's guidance. At this time, we are not doing temperature checks. That is not something that we have been recommended to do. If something changes, again, it is a fluid situation. As you know, there's a lot of flexibility that is involved, and we will continue to update that. So stay tuned if that changes, okay? A lot of colleges are doing that, or they're doing testing. Like my daughter goes to Merrimack, she has to get tested. But the reason is that they have a lot of kids coming from out of state or out of country, okay? And a lot of different people coming on and off campus at the same time. So just that's kind of a reason why they're doing it. But at this time, public schools have not been recommended to do that. Okay, so the question is, not all wipes treat the virus. If students are using their own, who will ensure the wipes being used are the correct ones? So that's a very good question. I do not have, other than obviously we want to make sure that we're using proper cleaning and sanitizing. But I think to the point of that is that one of the parents brought up, which I think is a great idea, is to have students disinfect and clean on their own and then do it again when they enter, you know, the next classroom, just in case a student before missed something. So we can work on that. Okay. Will you be providing free flu shots now that they are required? So as you may or may not know, we just got guidance at 1 o'clock this afternoon that all school-aged children in the Commonwealth by December will need to have their flu shot. We actually have a free flu shot available for our staff members. We get like a free flu clinic, which we've done for a couple of years through Kathleen Holman. We do not have guidance yet. I'm not saying that we can't offer it, but let's So stay tuned. If you could stay tuned on that, we can certainly look into if we're able to provide a clinic. You know, we use, I think, Kathleen, do we use CVS still?
So we do have a partnership with CVS, and we've been in the works to do the staff clinic. I don't know what will happen now that all students need to have the flu vaccine, and if we're able to, but I can do some looking into that. Oftentimes the public health nurse of the town that we are located in may also assist us in clinics. So stay tuned.
Thank you. I hate to say, well, this is what it says. I hate to say this. Is there a chance the teachers will strike as part of the union if they won't end up having in-person school and they won't end up? I said, so anything's possible, right? I mean, it's a union, so they can obviously choose to do what they feel is in their best interest. So I can't answer that, meaning because I don't know if they're going to strike. I will say that there is a percentage of student, faculty and staff that feel one way, and then there's another portion of faculty and staff that feel another way. We can only make it as safe as we can make it. We are following the protocols of CDC, of the Department of Health, as well as the state Governor Baker, as well as the Commissioner Riley. We have all sat on a variety of different committees. I meet with superintendents weekly across the Commonwealth to review different plans, particularly in a vocational and agricultural setting. There's always going to be a percentage of staff members, regardless of what industry you're in, that just may or may not feel comfortable or may choose to not return to work. And we will address that on a case-by-case basis. And so I am hopeful that they will not strike, but anything's possible. So, you know, we'll wait. And that's where the flexibility and the adjustment to practice comes in. We have fabulous staff, and what I have asked from our staff as well is to assume positive intent, do not judge, and to respect others' differences. And that's really important, because if we're teaching our students to respect other differences, then us as a staff and faculty also need to respect other differences. What I will tell you is that the team, which has been made up of not only administrators, but faculty and staff, you know, right down to bus drivers, they have all been part of kind of the reopening of schools. And we believe that we've put in every kind of protocol in place to bring kids back safely. And we're only going to answer, if that's okay, a couple more questions. I mean, I can go on forever because I typically do. And, but I know that people are probably tired. And after school teacher availability, again, to be determined based on what the availability of buses are, okay? If I am unable to, oops, sorry guys, we've got some of these questions I have already answered, so I'm just kind of just quickly going through because we're kind of reaching. If we purchase our own Chromebook for our incoming 9th grader, who will be setting it up? Joe?
So we will definitely work out the details for that. I see the second part of that question was, will there be a guide? I like that idea. If it's something that we can have the students do themselves, we definitely will. But we will help you through it one way or the other, for sure, to make sure it happens.
Thank you. When will Aspen be set up? Will we get an email?
Yep, so as soon as the students get their accounts, we will also send an email out to the caretakers with directions on how to access the account with the temporary password. Yep.
Okay. Did you see my question about what you mean by face covering? Is that a mask without a vent, or do you also mean a face shield? So a face shield is something different. We do have those available as well for our staff and our students, but we do also want them to wear something that covers their nose and their mouth. We will also be purchasing clear face masks for some of our staff members. For example, in Spanish, you're learning a new language, and you have to roll your R's, which I never learned really properly how to do. But they really need to see their, their mouth as they're doing that. So we are going to have some clear masks also available for our staff members. So I hope that answered the question. So a shield is something different. It actually goes kind of around your forehead and then comes down. So you can certainly use those, but also you need to use the mask. Regardless of Chromebooks, will the kids be able to access with home PCs or other devices? We have an older model Chromebook and sufficient desktop device. Will that be acceptable? Yeah, while they're at home, they can use whatever they need to use, whether it's a PC, a Chromebook, an iPad, to be able to do their work. When they're in school, it would be a Chromebook, because we use the management system with it, or the iPad, depending on the grade level. Do all the students have to do hybrid? So I believe I answered that question as it relates to remote. So my son will be in biotechnology. How does this work on remote days? So a schedule is coming out. Jill Sawyer and Dawn Ducharme is working with the vocational teachers and the agricultural teachers to develop that not non-live, because they're going to be live, because they're going to be seeing them, but the teacher will be teaching during that time frame. Will incoming sophomores also have orientation and bus transportation to the school and home? The answer would be yes. And it would be the same day as the orientation for our incoming grade 9 students, okay? What is the process for seniors to discuss college with guidance? It's the same process that it would be as if we were full on. You make an appointment with your school counselor. That school counselor gives you a pass on our app called Smart Pass, and then you go down and you counsel with your counselor.
And just to clarify on Smart Pass, because I see some questions down the way, it's not only for a cell phone, it does work on the Chromebooks and the iPads or any internet connected device.
Thank you. All right, so that's a good question. What if a student doesn't have a cell phone? So that's what it is, okay? So they can use it on their device that they have with them. Okay. All right, I'm going to answer 3 more questions just because it's 8:22. We've been at it for about almost 2.5 hours, and we've got to be back in a little bit. So, is there a way for the academic teachers to post the daily and weekly assignments in one spot so that it is easier for the kids to manage their workload? We are using Google Classroom. I think one thing that came out of our remote learning last year is that teachers became more and more comfortable with the technology. So I would work with your individual teachers directly. Many of them do post assignments ahead of time, and we can certainly ask them, but many of them already do. Okay. Okay, it says you answered some of this, but you didn't address if the student who is homesick on a day that they are supposed to be at the school, can they monitor the instruction via Zoom? This would be beneficial. So the challenge with that is that not all teachers are going to be Zooming their live classes. So we can't really do that at this time. And they're not going to be recording their, not all of them are going to be recording their lessons. So it would be difficult to have all 250 staff members be doing that on a daily basis. What I would recommend though, is because we are using Google Classroom, is that you would work with your individual teachers if you're going to be out. If you opt for remote learning, how does it affect your CTE program? Well, we're working again with the CTE teachers as well as the vocational directors on what CTE looks like. Obviously, it's going to look different because I cannot have, not meaning I, but we can't say to a student in electrical, go wire your grandmother's bedroom, because that could have very toxic, dangerous challenges. So we have to be creative as it relates to the remote learning options for our technical programs. And each program is going to look a little bit different, because if you're in a program like IT, information technology, that is computer-based, it may be an easier kind of situation as opposed to a production-based program. Let's see. I think, let me do, what about students needing to take a bus to work? If that is your bus, then you would take that bus as you normally would. So that would be the situation. What happens if students attending school are from districts that are in the red and yellow zones? So the yellow zones, the governor made it clear that we could still be in a hybrid model. The red zones is a little bit trickier because we're a regional school district. So we are waiting for guidance from the Commissioner of Education as well as Governor Baker on what does happen. I will say at this time, new metrics are coming out tonight. There are 3 communities. So one of them is our sending, one of them is one of our 17 sending communities. The other 2 are what we call our surrounding communities. And it is an equity issue for us not to allow students from that community to come to our school. All 3 of those cities are what we call gateway cities, okay? So if you don't know what a gateway city is, there's a whole description online that you can look at, mass.gov, on what defines a gateway city. But those cities tend to have a large population in a smaller square footage of space or square mile space. And so it may look very differently than, say, a sprawling, suburban community. And so that being said, there are some equity issues and concerns as it relates to those red zones. Again, we are waiting for guidance, which is supposed to be specific to regional school districts. In fact, I did email the commissioner because we are one of the only school, I think we are the only school in the state that provides educational opportunities across 3 counties and over 55 communities. So if you could just kind of hang tight on that, and we will get guidance as soon as it comes to us. Will we be using my school bucks to fund lunch or the app? So you use school bucks and then you purchase your lunch on the app that we're going to be providing. So you're going to pre-order your lunch if you're using the app. How do I make sure my freshman is signed up for the bus? So again, we'll put this in our weekly message again, just to make sure that you have Kathy Russo's contact information. We are not going to be using lockers this year. They will all be zip tied. Therefore, there's no congestion in the hallways. Nobody's hanging out at the lockers. Because we are a one-to-one device, there's not going to be there's going to be very little textbooks, because we do a lot of online textbooks. So the kids should be okay with that. Are temps being taken upon arrival? I believe I already answered this, but I'm going to answer it again. They are not being taken upon arrival. It is not a recommendation from the Board of Health at this time, as well as obviously the Commissioner of Education and Governor Baker for public schools. And there's new guidance as it relates to temperature checks. Update on fall sports. What I do want to know is, or let you know, I think the football coach texted Joe Marino to say not to come. Any grade 9 students that are on the football team that got an email, I believe, or a message about coming to pick up your equipment, don't come in tomorrow. Is that the answer?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, it's 8:29. I got one more question. Will it be helpful to have screened volunteers help clean, especially at lunchtimes? Thank you so much for volunteering. But at this time, we will not be having volunteers in the building. We certainly appreciate it. We can catch you on the other side post-COVID, because we would love volunteers to come in and help us. All right, one more question. If my daughter does not want to eat lunch, will there be another location that she can go outside and get some fresh air? I think that lunch is really an essential factor. So even if it's a snack, that they can eat to sustain themselves, but we are looking at outside space, for that lunchtime, okay? Okay. I am seeing questions. So it says, can you see our questions? I have seen replies to questions prior to my first one. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of following the track just to let you know. So I apologize if I did not get to all of the questions. How many did we answer, Joe Marino?
I don't have a number without duplicates. There's 77 that were answered online and 188 that I believe were answered live.
Okay.
And it looks like about 50, now 51, still open.
Okay, so it's 51. I'm willing to go, but I have to say our team, I'll be like hanging on the flagpole tomorrow if I keep going. So I like being gainfully employed by this district and alive and well. So what I will say is if your answer was not, or if your question was not answered, please email reopening@essextech.net. Reopening@essextech.net. We will respond to those questions in that format. I apologize ahead of time. We tried to go as fast as we could. And we will have additional chat sessions.
And we can include some of the questions in the FAQs as well that we'll try to get out late this week.
I do want to thank you. I know that this is a very difficult time for everyone. We have been not in school since March, with kids on campus. It was great to see the kids today in action, live. I know we can do this. We are going to work really hard for everyone. If you have thoughts, questions, suggestions, definitely send them our way. If you're still unsure, please reach out to the individuals that we asked you to reach out to. Other than that, you chose the right school, I'm going to tell you, because we have pretty awesome teachers, staff, custodians, maintenance, bus drivers. I mean, we have it's an incredible place to be, okay? And there's no better place than to be on land that have horses and cows and llamas and space to walk around in, and an orchard that's going to be growing, and I mean, I can't even imagine, you can't even imagine. If you're an incoming ninth grader or a parent of an incoming ninth grader, please know that you've made the right decision. I know it's a challenging time right now, but we will all get through this, and we're going to get through it together. And that's what makes us so awesome and so great, because we truly are a team. And we mean that wholeheartedly. So with that, it's 8:34. I thank you all. I appreciate all of you that stayed on, and we will be talking soon. All right. Thanks, everyone.